The wrestling world exploded into absolute pandemonium when Seth Rollins made his shocking return to Monday Night Raw and immediately set his sights on two of the most dominant forces in the company. What unfolded was nothing but pure destruction and chaos that left the WWE Universe on their feet screaming at the top of their lungs. Before we dive into every single detail of what went down, make sure you hit that subscribe button because you do not want to miss any of the insane moments coming your way. Seth Rollins has been out of action for what feels like an eternity, and the WWE landscape has changed dramatically during his absence. Bron Breakker has been running through the roster like a freight train with no brakes, destroying everyone in his path and establishing himself as one of the most feared competitors in the entire company. Bronson Reed has been equally devastating, using his massive size and surprising agility to crush opponents week after week. These two men have been terrorizing Monday Night Raw, and it seemed like nobody could stop their reign of destruction. But Seth Rollins is not just anybody. He is a former world champion, a Grand Slam winner, and someone who has never backed down from a fight no matter how dangerous or how intimidating his opponents might be. The show was already electric with anticipation because rumors had been swirling all week that something big was going to happen. The crowd was hot from the opening bell, and you could feel the energy in the arena building with each passing segment. Bron Breakker had just finished demolishing another opponent in the ring and was standing tall in the center of the squared circle, flexing his muscles and showing the world why he is considered one of the most dangerous men in professional wrestling. He grabbed a microphone and started running his mouth about how nobody in the entire locker room had the guts to step up and challenge him. He was talking about how he had proven time and time again that he was superior to everyone else and that his dominance would continue forever. Bronson Reed's music suddenly hit and the big man came stomping down to the ring with bad intentions written all over his face. The crowd started buzzing because these two powerhouses had been circling each other for weeks, and it looked like we were finally going to see them collide. Reed got in the ring and went face to face with Breakker in a stare down that had the entire arena holding their breath. These two massive athletes were jawing at each other and the tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. It looked like they were about to throw hands right then and there when suddenly the lights in the arena went completely dark. The crowd erupted because everyone knew that meant something huge was about to happen. When the lights came back on, Seth Rollins was standing on the entrance ramp with that signature smirk on his face. He was dressed in his ring gear and he looked ready for war. The pop from the crowd was absolutely deafening as thousands of fans jumped to their feet and lost their minds. Rollins stood there for a moment soaking in the reaction before he started making his way down to the ring with purpose in every step. His eyes were locked on both Breakker and Reed and you could see the fire burning inside him. Breakker and Reed turned their attention to Rollins and both men looked surprised but not intimidated. They started talking trash to the architect as he approached the ring, but Rollins was not fazed in the slightest. He climbed up on the apron and stepped through the ropes, never taking his eyes off either man. The three competitors stood in a triangle formation in the center of the ring and the atmosphere was absolutely electric. You could hear the crowd chanting Rollins' name over and over again as he grabbed a microphone from one of the ringside attendants. Rollins told both men that their time of running roughshod over Monday Night Raw was officially over. He said he had been sitting at home watching them think they were unstoppable and it made him sick to his stomach. He talked about how he built Monday Night Raw with his own blood, sweat, and tears, and there was no way he was going to let two guys come in and disrespect everything he had worked for. Breakker responded by telling Rollins that he was living in the past and that this was a new era. He said Rollins was washed up and should have stayed home instead of coming back to get embarrassed. Reed nodded in agreement and added that Rollins was way out of his depth trying to stand toe-to-toe with real monsters. That was all Rollins needed to hear. He dropped the microphone and immediately threw a punch right at Breakker's face. The crowd went absolutely insane as all three men started brawling in the middle of the ring. Rollins was throwing hands with both guys at the same time, ducking and weaving and firing off strikes with precision and speed. Breakker caught him with a massive shoulder tackle that sent Rollins flying across the ring. Reed followed up with a huge splash in the corner that crushed the architect against the turnbuckles. It looked like the two big men were going to team up and destroy Rollins right then and there. But Seth Rollins has never been one to go down without a fight. He started fighting back with everything he had, hitting both men with super kicks and forearms and anything else he could think of. He managed to send Breakker tumbling out of the ring with a clothesline over the top rope. That left him alone with Reed for just a moment, and Rollins took advantage by hitting the ropes and delivering a suicide dive through the ropes that sent both himself and Reed crashing into the barricade. The crowd was on their feet screaming as Rollins got up and started beating on Reed with closed fists. Breakker recovered quickly and came charging around the ring like a madman. He speared Rollins right into the steel steps with such force that the steps went flying in different directions. The sickening thud echoed throughout the entire arena and everyone thought Rollins might be seriously hurt, but the architect somehow managed to pull himself up using the ring apron. His face showed nothing but determination and rage. Reed got back up and grabbed Rollins from behind, lifting him up for a massive powerbomb on the outside of the ring. Rollins went crashing down hard on the thin padding covering the concrete floor. Security and referees started rushing down to the ring trying to restore order, but there was no stopping these three warriors. Rollins refused to stay down despite taking massive punishment from both men. He kept getting back up and throwing himself at Breakker and Reed with reckless abandon. At one point he managed to catch Breakker with a superkick that staggered the young powerhouse. He followed up by hitting Reed with a flying knee strike that sent the big man stumbling backward. Rollins was running on pure adrenaline and heart at this point. The fight spilled up the entrance ramp as all three men continued to trade blows. Rollins hit a pedigree on Breakker right on the steel ramp, and the sound of Breakker's body hitting the metal surface was brutal. Reed tried to capitalize by grabbing Rollins, but the architect slipped out and hit a stomp on Reed that left the big man laying. The crowd was absolutely losing their minds watching this incredible display of violence and intensity. Rollins stood tall on the entrance ramp with both men down at his feet, and he let out a primal scream that showed just how much this moment meant to him. But the beating was far from over. Breakker somehow managed to get back to his feet and he was furious. He charged at Rollins with everything he had, and the two men started exchanging vicious strikes in the middle of the ramp. Reed eventually got up as well, and all three men continued their war. They fought backstage and through the corridors with cameras following every single moment of the chaos. Equipment was getting knocked over, personnel were scrambling to get out of the way, and the three competitors showed no signs of stopping. At one point they ended up in the parking lot area where Rollins managed to grab a steel chair. He started swinging it wildly at both Breakker and Reed, connecting with shots to their backs and their legs. The chair was dented and bent from the force of the impacts. Breakker grabbed Rollins and threw him into the side of a production truck with tremendous force. Reed followed up by charging full speed and crushing Rollins against the vehicle with a running splash. It looked like Rollins was finally done, but somehow he kept fighting back. The officials finally managed to separate all three men, but not before Rollins got in one final shot. He broke free from the officials holding him back and delivered one more stomp to Breakker on the concrete floor of the parking lot. The sound of Breakker's head bouncing off the pavement was sickening. Reed tried to attack Rollins from behind, but the architect moved out of the way and Reed ended up colliding with a car door. Rollins stood there breathing heavily, his body covered in sweat and showing the marks of battle, but he had a smile on his face because he had proven his point. When the show finally went off the air, all three men had to be helped to the back by medical personnel and officials. Breakker was holding his head and looking dazed. Reed was limping and favoring his ribs. Rollins was battered and bruised, but he walked under his own power with his head held high. The message had been sent loud and clear. Seth Rollins was back and he was coming for both Bron Breakker and Bronson Reed. The landscape of Monday Night Raw had just shifted dramatically in a matter of minutes. The aftermath of this insane confrontation is going to have major implications for the entire Monday Night Raw roster. Breakker and Reed have been running wild for months and nobody has been able to stand up to them successfully. Now they have to deal with one of the most resilient and dangerous competitors in company history who just showed that he is willing to go to war with both of them at the same time. The questions now are what happens next and how will these three settle their differences? Will we see a triple threat match at the next Premium Live event? Will Rollins target them one by one? Will Breakker and Reed put aside their differences and team up to take out the architect? What makes this situation even more interesting is that all three men have legitimate claims to being top contenders for championship opportunities. Rollins has a long history of championship success and is always in the conversation for title shots. Breakker has been destroying everyone and has been demanding a championship match for weeks. Reed has also been on an absolute tear and has made it clear he wants gold around his waist. The collision of these three forces creates unpredictable scenarios that could play out in multiple different ways. The crowd reaction to Rollins' return and his immediate confrontation with both men tells you everything you need to know about how much the WWE Universe has missed him. The energy in that arena was off the charts and social media exploded with reactions from fans all over the world. Everyone was talking about what they had just witnessed and speculating about what comes next. This is exactly the kind of moment that reminds everyone why professional wrestling is so compelling when it is done right. Seth Rollins has always been the kind of performer who elevates everyone around him. His matches are consistently excellent and his ability to tell stories in the ring is second to none. Bringing him back into programs with Breakker and Reed is going to help establish both of those guys as legitimate main event players. Breakker has all the physical tools and the pedigree, but working with someone like Rollins will teach him how to put all the pieces together. Reed has been impressive with his combination of size and athleticism, but a feud with Rollins will push him to new levels. The physical nature of this confrontation also sets the tone for what kind of matches we can expect when these three finally meet in official competition. This is not going to be a technical wrestling showcase. This is going to be a fight. A brutal, hard-hitting, no-holds-barred fight where all three men are trying to prove they are the toughest and the best. That style plays to all of their strengths and should produce some incredible television over the coming weeks and months. One thing is certain after what we witnessed. Monday Night Raw just got a lot more interesting. The show had been missing the top-level star power during Rollins' absence, and now that he is back the entire program feels more important. His presence alone raises the stakes for everyone involved and creates fresh matchups that fans are desperate to see. The combination of Rollins' experience and star power with Breaker's raw potential and Reed's intimidating presence is a recipe for must-see television. Make sure you subscribe to this channel so you do not miss a single update on this developing story, because things are about to get even crazier. The war between Seth Rollins, Bron Breakker, and Bronson Reed has only just begun, and you can bet that all three men are going to continue bringing the chaos and the intensity week after week.